Welcome to a new episode of OnSpot Review. I'm gonna talk about Cells at Work. This is the G-rated version of the show. I know there is a mature version out there, but Netflix only has the G version, so I'm just gonna talk about that one. I only checked this show out because the main character is voiced by the same voice actress who did Michiru from Brand New Animal, Makoto from Persona 5, and the female protagonist of Cyberpunk. So I was just curious to see what the show about, just because of that. This show is also done by David Production, which I didn't like. I knew the name when I saw it in the intro, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I was like, I know David Production, but what do I know them from? And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, they did JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So everything started to connect. You know, the animation style is just like JoJo for the most part. And it kind of makes sense. The tone of Cells at Work, I think, is the heart of the show. I think as much of it is informative, is also fun and entertaining. It is very informative. It is very clear that it is written for a younger audience. It's kind of for a, I would say, like, 7-year-old and above, like, teenage kind of stuff. But the amount of information that Cells at Work gives the viewer is so thorough. I was surprised by how thorough it was, because a lot of people compare this to Osmosis Jones, so I was kind of expecting it to be kind of a simplified educational kind of show. Not that Osmosis Jones was bad for it being simplified, but it kind of simplified it to the point where it taught you stuff and it was like entertaining and it got you interested in biology. While this show kind of goes a little bit further than that, it kind of shows more of the variety and diverse amount of cells that are in the body, which is surprising. I was surprised some of the stuff that was in this show I kind of remembered learning in anatomy. I was like, whoa, we're talking about this? Cool. Like, I do like a lot of the stuff that this show teaches that's actually pretty interesting, and it's actually, paced very well. The way that they pace out the informative kind of stuff is the same kind of pacing they do in JoJo, where a character in JoJo could do some crazy stuff and they'll just stop and tell you and explain what they did, and then you'll see what happens. It's like that kind of pacing, and it works so well in Cells at Work. It kind of makes it more impactful in a way. There was an episode where all these bacteria and viruses entered the body, and it was like, oh yeah, we're gonna keep calling for backup, and there's nothing you can do. And because this bacteria is like telling him, like, we know the T cells come in later, so we're gonna attack now, and there's like a little population of you guys that we can handle, but we know that this is gonna happen much later, so we should be good. And then the white blood cell would say, well, you forgot, we have other friends that are gonna fuck you up. And it's like, what? And it's like, oh no, it's the platelets, they're gonna, like, do their thing, clot the wound, so all that kind of stuff. So it's this cool pacing where you see a conflict arise, and then as soon as it reaches the climax, something happens, and then they explain to you why this thing's happening and what's gonna happen, and then it's like bam. So it has the same kind of pacing as JoJo, where it's informative and impactful to the story of each episode. So that was kind of fun, and it kind of makes education in that show seem like it serves a purpose. So it does a good job kind of tricking the viewer into learning stuff in a way that's honest and fun. And I do think that the tone is perfect. I know a lot of people like the mature version way more, but I'm kind of hoping it kind of retains this goofy, over the top attitude, because I think it's not a sterile show. It's not like we are the white blood cells. We're gonna take care of the bad guys. It's nothing boring and flat. It's actually like hilarious sometimes. Like, I just love how they made the white blood cells so over the top in their job that every time I see one just flying in from all directions. It's like, hell yeah. Like, I just love that you get to see a bacteria running across the screen. All of a sudden, you just see this white blood cell like lunge out of a vent, be like, "Time to die!" It's like, oh shit! Like, I just love the dialogue that they gave the white blood cells and the characterization with some of these cells. It makes them fun to see them on the screen in the show. The only issue I think I have with Cells at Work is the animation quality is kind of disappointing from David Production. I don't know if it was one of those shows where a lot of new shows, if you give them one season, a lot of the animation isn't that good. Like, it's decent, but you could tell that maybe, they weren't given a good budget, and maybe the idea was a little bit more ambitious for the budget. A lot of times, characters can seem off model or not fully detailed or unfinished, and I don't know if it's a budgetary, we need to just get these episodes done and finished with this amount of money and time, or if it's like they wanted it to be that way, because there are times where the characters feel like they're made out of plastic, and I can't tell if it's a intentional decision because they're cells and maybe they want to make them look like that, they're cells, or if it's just an honest, like, we had to finish this up, so we're just gonna have them unfinished a little bit. So I'm curious to see how season 2 panned out, because I think there is 2 seasons currently for the show, and right now Netflix only has 1, so maybe season 2 is gonna be better. I'll have to wait and see. I do know that the mature version has a little bit better animation, like, it looks pretty good. My only concern with the mature version, honestly, is that it's going to be overly dark and overly mature, which is fine, but I kind of want a mature version of Cells at Work to retain the goofiness. Like JoJo. JoJo is a serious kind of story, but it has all this, like, lighthearted goofiness about it, and I kind of want the mature version of Cells at Work to be that, because I think that's what I love about Cells at Work is it's kiddie and goofy and dumb and educational, but the heart of it is so rich and fun that I don't want that to be gone. Like, if it doesn't have that energy or charm to it, I don't know if I'll care enough about the mature version, but I will check it out. It's just the heart of this version is so good that I wouldn't want it to change. Like, I love the character interactions, the dialogue, how it teaches about each cell, and the amount of detail. Like, I didn't even expect that they would even go through the classifications of different white cells out there, like T cells, killer cells, eosinophils, all these cells that are like, this is like deep learning, and I think it's really nice to see a show that's educational and aimed for a younger audience go through all those details, because I don't remember my biology classes in high school, even middle school, go into that detail. Like, a lot of the times they might go into some detail, but not nowhere. I don't think they went nearly as much as this show. I also like how each episode dealt with a different kind of thing. Like, one dealt with staphylococcus, one dealt with cancer, two actually dealt with hemorrhagic shock, one dealt with heat stroke, all these things. And I really liked that there's no overarching plot, and each episode stands on its own very well. There's no need to raise the stakes in these kind of shows, because it's the human body, so the stake is already there. So it does a good job, kind of like, you don't have to sit there and worry about, oh, are the main characters gonna die? Oh, no one dies, so there's really no stake. Like, it's reasonable. I do like some of the virus designs, however, on the same kind of issue, I think that some of them are not. I don't like some of their designs. A lot of times, these viruses look very lame and bland. I think the first virus or bacteria you see in episode 1, like, that kind of made me want to. That almost made me want to turn it off. If it wasn't for the writing and the heart of it, I probably would have. But that design was just kind of rough. I did like the design for these. I think it's like I'm gonna butcher the name again. Staphylococcus. It's the one that looks like a grapevine. That one, I did like that design. It's pretty good. I do think that they wanted these bacteria and virus designs to stay true to how they look in real life to a point. Obviously, I mean they can't go one to one, but I think they wanted to kind of integrate some of the traits of those viruses in there. I also like the episode that talked about the flu or like those kind of infections. I kind of laughed at they ended that episode with a new strain that was like, oh yeah, this one can really cause an epidemic. I'm like, oh, so this is technically a COVID episode too. So I do like that they kind of talk about that very well, and I do like that though that episode with about the flu and and those kind of viruses. It actually has those like little spike proteins, and they do a good job of like integrating that into the design that goes on top of a cell, and it kind of changes how they act, all that kind of stuff. It does a very good job showing that, and I do like that. I do like a lot of stuff that they integrate visually. I also like the design for the allergens, which was kind of cool. It's kind of like goofy, uh, but it does a good job kind of integrating all this informative stuff into the show, where a kid can learn a lot, and the parent can kind of watch the show with their kid. Like it's just one of those shows that's written in a way where the parent can sit down with their kid and not rip their hair out. So, uh, it's fun. It's goofy. If you go in expecting a goofy show that is informative, I think you'll get what you're looking for. Because I feel like if you go in thinking that this is gonna be a show like Little Witch Academia or anything like that, maybe you'll be disappointed. But I do think that it's fun and it's kind of interesting to see what you're gonna learn. Like there were just times where I was just like, this came on as I'm watching Demon Slayer right now. Like I'm liking that show too. I'm gonna talk about that when I finish it. But I was watching this and then I kind of gave Cells that at work a shot, and then I ended up finding myself like, I want to watch the next episode. What's this episode about? Oh, dude, they're doing an episode on cancer? Whoa. I also like the design for the cancer cells. I thought that was kind of cool. I think it could have looked a little bit better, but I do like that it integrates the idea that it kind of messes with how like cancer generates these incorrect cells, and I do like that they show a backstory to it where it's like, yeah, these two kids were not meant to be born, and the white blood cells are gonna kill them, and I just love that it just shows that very well. So like honestly, it's like yeah, this is what happens. Cells also go after other cells that are incorrect. So I do like the that they show that in an honest way. Like they don't bend it where it's like, oh, we could show this and you don't have to feel it one way. Like they kind of go all the way with it, which I really like because um when I first learned about cancer cells and how they propagate and how they happen, it was like it's interesting. I do think that kind of stuff is interesting, and I think like cells that were kind of tickled that interest in me, where it's like, it's really rad to really look at what the body does, and I think the show does a good job of kind of showing that and visualizing it and translating that into something that you can have fun watching. So I do like this version of Cells at Work a lot. I just kind of wish the animation was a little bit better in some areas. But I do think it's a good, nice, cute show that you could kind of put on and just kind of learn a little bit about the body. Again, the amount of information is surprising. I really wasn't expecting them to talk about macrophages and eosinophils, and I can't remember the other cell that they said is like a mystery kind of like it's so. He's in the episode where they kind of give a spotlight on the eosinophil taking down a parasite, where he kind of goes off on this like poetic kind of discussion all the time, and I do kind of like that they showed that. And it's like, yeah, this thing's mysterious. That's why he looks mysterious. Uh, so I like a lot of stuff that what this show does, uh, and it's kind of honest in what it gives you and all that kind of stuff. So I would give it, if I were to rate it, I'd probably give it like an 8 or a 9 out of 10. Like 9 on a generous side, but probably an 8. I do think that uh I would want more of this show, and I think this show, honestly, I think they should show this to kids. in school, because I do think that it actually teaches a lot about the human body in a better way than Osmosis Jones ever could. Not that, again, not that Osmosis Jones is bad at what it does, but I think Cells at Work is much more interesting, and it kind of explains a lot of stuff about the body that's like, oh, this is pretty cool. So I do think that this show succeeds in a lot of ways that it sets out to do. Uh, so that's it for Cells at Work. I am very curious about the mature version. Hopefully that does get on Netflix for me to check it out. I can't wait for season 2 because I've just enjoyed season 1 so much. So that's it for this. Feel free to check it out. It's on Netflix. And I think the mature version is probably on Funimation's streaming site or Crunchyroll, but you know. But anyways, check it out. It's a good show. It's on Netflix. It has a great cast of voice actors. I like the voice actors of the Red Blood Cell and the White Blood Cell, the two main characters. I do like those voice actors. They do a good job in the roles that they have. So check it out. It's a great show. 8 out of 10. And that's it. See ya next time. Bye bye.